if your dog loves to play with Frisbees outside, I have some tips for you that might make your life a little bit easier as a dog parent. Now, my dog Gemma adores her Frisbees. They are her favorite outside toy. She loves to play with them, and she also loves to chomp on them, which means sometimes we get those rough edges. It means sometimes she puts her teeth through them. Sometimes I find little bits of plastic in the yard. So I've got some tips that are going to help you out. The first thing that I do for Gemma when we are playing with Frisbee is that I throw it upside down. Now, with a typical Frisbee, you're going to have a logo or something on top, and typically you throw it that way so that the rim is down. However, if your dog does not catch it, it's going to fall to the ground, and they're then going to have to scoop it up. That means they're going to kind of shove their little jaws down into the ground to grab it. They're going to hit their jaws. They might bang their teeth off of things. You want to make it as easy as possible for them to pick back up, and having it the normal way is not going to help them. So I throw the Frisbee upside down so that the rim is facing up. This gives them something to hold on to. It means that they're less likely to bash their little bottom jaw into the ground or to dig their teeth into the dirt or to hurt themselves while they're trying to pick it up. Does it throw just the same? Yeah. Does it look a little weird? Sure, but who cares if the dogs are going to be playing and having fun? So throwing it upside down is my number one tip for using Frisbees with dogs because it's just safer and it's nicer and it's easier for them to play, and it's simple for us as their parents to be able to toss that upside down for them just to give them a little bit of an advantage when it comes to playing. Now, it's also important to note that not all Frisbees are created equal. They are across the board not the same thing. Some of them are sturdier plastic, some of them are weaker plastic, some of them have different shapes. Gemma is very particular about the shape of her Frisbee. I've gotten her ones that are more oval or more like flat. They don't have the rim, and she simply does not like those. She likes the one with the rims, and she likes them when they're a little bit thicker. I went into a store and I found some Frisbees for summer that looked just like it. They felt nice and sturdy. Everything looked good. And so I bought 2 of them because they were a little bit cheaper than the ones we got from the pet store. And I brought them home for her, and she loved it for about 2 minutes until she grabbed it a little bit too hard and the entire thing splintered. Not cracked, not broke, splintered in her mouth. She had it and I had to take it away from her, and there was just a giant crack and a chunk out of it, and she was immediately unable to play with that. I did not let her play with that one anymore. We did not buy any more of those. We went back to buying the pet store ones. And so even though it might look sturdy, even though it might feel sturdy, it could be created differently. So you have to be very mindful when you're playing with your dogs. There's no harm in trying it, but if you find that it splinters rather than just kind of has a little dent in it or a little hole in it from their teeth, don't give that one to them. They can get hurt on it. You have to be mindful of these things. Now, like I said, Gemma's teeth do sometimes go through it, and so you have to be mindful of finding little chunks on the grass. I'm very, very good at this point at finding little pieces of plastic that are in the yard, and I'll just grab them and I will get rid of them so that they don't find it and eat it later on. So just be mindful of these things. Sometimes if we do have cracks and holes in the Frisbees, we're going to want to remove those from our dogs. However, I learned a tip from Petco recently. I went in to buy more Frisbees because Gemma had kind of gnawed on the edges of hers, and I don't let her sit there and chew. This is just her from chomping on it while she's running around playing with it. This is not something where she has free reign of it. I'm constantly watching her and playing with her when we're doing Frisbee. So she doesn't have the opportunity to destroy this like some of the other toys if she was just going to sit there and chew on it. This is literally just playtime damage from it. And so she will kind of chew along the edges, and we'll have some sharp pieces that kind of peel off a little bit. So when I was in the pet store and Petco getting more Frisbees, they said, sand it down. Take a piece of sandpaper when they aren't playing with it and just sand off those rough edges. And then you can let your dog play with it a little bit longer so you don't have all those sharp edges that are going to cut your clothing or your hands or cut their mouths. It gives a little bit more life to it. So if you're going to be doing that, you can take a piece of sandpaper and you can smooth that down. I do recommend rinsing it off in the sink or with a hose or something. Get the dust off of it before you give it back to your dog, and then just be mindful of the wear and tear on those Frisbees, and you want to replace those fairly frequently if you're seeing some damage for that, because you don't want to hurt their teeth and you don't want to hurt your skin or your clothing while you are playing with your dogs. Now, with that said, I have learned that Frisbees are not necessarily cheap, but they are more expensive some places than others. The best price that I have found for ones that are sturdy and reliable are from the pet stores, PetSmart, Petco. Those places have ones made specifically for dogs, so they're going to be a little bit of a sturdier plastic. They're not going to splinter like the ones that I got from that other store, even though they felt relatively the same. So I like going to the pet stores to do this because I know that one's more so made for my dogs. And I found them to be the cheapest. I've looked on places like Amazon, I've looked at places like Walmart and Target and other places, and frisbees have gotten expensive, my friends. With the rise of disc golf and things like that, they've gotten pricey. There are also some companies out there, if your dog is really into frisbees, that specifically make them for frisbee training for dogs, and those are also quite expensive. So depending on what stage your dog is at, if it's play versus training, like officially training with your dog, doing tricks and things, there are going to be different levels. So I recommend, for the most part, going to the pet stores. That's going to be the most value for the money that you're paying for it. And if you can catch them on sales, that's going to be helpful. One last tip I want to leave you with is that you can get frisbees on sale after season at the pet stores. So if it's Halloween time and Halloween is now over, they had Halloween specific frisbees. They have bats on them. They have spiders on them. They have Halloween insignias and logos on them. They're in Halloween colors, but your dog doesn't care. My dog is still playing with things I got her after Halloween on 70, 80, 90% off sales from the pet stores. So look after the big holidays, Halloween, Christmas, Easter. Look after the holidays and see if you can get after season toys on 70, 80, 90% off, and then stock up whenever you can. And all you have to do is deal with a bat logo being on your frisbee for your dog, which is fine for the most part. And so you can save yourself a little bit of money if you go after holiday seasons. Frisbees are super fun for dogs, but we have a whole playlist of toys and resources you can use for enrichment time outside. Lots of different toy recommendations for my girls, and we can get your questions answered as well. So follow along, drop your questions, and we'll see you in the upcoming episodes as we continue to help you navigate dog parent life to give your pup the best life possible. We'll see you then.